Hi everybody, welcome to Mobility Monday. My name is Bart Hawkinson, physical therapist at Therapeutic Associates, Northlake Physical Therapy. With the weather changing and with ski season right around the corner here, this is a great opportunity to look at, from a physical therapist perspective, some of the really cool things that we can do to get our bodies prepped for ski season, and of course working on injury prevention. So I'm going to go through a handful of my favorite kind of ski prep strengthening exercises. And when we're talking about ski prep, what we're really focused on is strength of our hips, strength of our core. So when we're skiing, when we're into especially the turns skiing, where we're starting to put those loads, so we're in a turn, I'm kind of bearing down on my ski, I'm putting a lot of force with my hips out into the edge so I can stay into my turn. Where things kind of go off the rails, and in skiing can go off the rails in a split second, is if I lose a little bit of that connection through my hip and my core, I get a little bit of a drop of my knee, I can have a wobble on my ski, I can catch an edge, I can dive in, put a lot of strain through the knee. Worst case scenario, of course, that leads to like ACL tears, meniscus tears. At the very least, it's probably going to lead to a pretty solid crash. So we're going to really be focusing on that good hip, core to leg connection. That's kind of the key piece of keeping our lower extremities safe and healthy in the ski season. One of my favorite pieces of equipment with this is just these simple bands. They make these really cool called CLX bands, and what they are is bands that have built-in loops to them. I love to use these for these exercises. You can use any kind of standard band you want, just simply can kind of tie some loops into it, but I like these sort of pre-made ones. They're just a little easier to use, give you a little bit more versatility. I think they're really cool. So we're going to dive in now, go through some of my favorite hip, core, leg strengthening exercises. All right, so the first one we're going to do here, we're going to be laying down. We're going to do some bridging exercises to get the glute muscles warmed up. So I'm going to just get down on the ground here. I've got my feet shoulder width apart. I've got a comfortable bend to the knee, and I'm going to just start with some glute bridges. So first step here is I'm going to engage my core. I'm going to get my lower back slightly flat here, so get my lower abdominals toned up. Not pressed in, but just enough where I can put kind of my fingertips between my lower back and the floor there. I'm going to now have my weight through my heels. So toes might be slightly up. I'm digging my heels in, my core is set, and I'm going to lift up into the air as high as I can go without losing control of my core. So the hips may not get up above that imaginary line between my shoulder and my knee. That's okay. Coming back down. Should feel that in the hamstrings and the glutes there. So again, setting the core, pressing down through the heels, lifting up as high as you're able to without breaking that neutral spine position, squeezing the buttock at the top of the motion, brief pause, back down. We'll do 10 repetitions of that. Next piece here is we're going to move into a single leg glute bridge. Just as it sounds, I'm going to reach up, I'm going to grab my knee with both hands there. Core is engaged. I'm pulling my heel into the ground there, and I'm up, keeping my pelvis level. Now this is obviously harder because it's single leg, and it also focuses on balance and stability. Great exercise to get the hamstrings and the glutes engaged, firing, and also working on that really important core stability. So going for 10 repetitions on each side. Of course, being mindful that this really is a pretty vigorous exercise for the hamstring, really great for getting that muscle fired. But if you haven't done these, or maybe haven't done them in a long time, you actually might not be able to get 10 repetitions. You might start getting some pretty significant soreness or cramping in the hamstring. Listen to your body. If you need to start out at sets of 5, that's just fine. Listen to your body, do what you can do. We'll do 2 rounds of that on each side. Again, shooting for 2 rounds of 10, but do what you can do. Great. All right, so now I'm going to grab my band here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the band, hold it in each hand. This is about a 5-foot section of band here, and I'm going to put it under my feet there, so I'm stepping on the band. I've got it up by my hips here, and then I'm going to cross over like so. So it creates this cross band, which is really great for recruiting stability of the hip and core muscles. So I've got the band crossed over under my feet. I'm going to sit back into a shallow squat position, and then I'm going to do a little lateral walk here. I'm going to take about 10 to 15 steps down. Then I'll take about 10 to 15 steps back. Key pieces of this are I'm keeping my hips very level through here. I'm not allowing any kind of side to side, and I'm picking my foot up. I'm not dragging my foot on the ground as I go. So pick the foot up, trailing leg follows slowly. We don't want to let that just snap back. About 10 to 15 steps out to one side, 10 to 15 steps coming back. Then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do a step here where I'm going to come in to out, call a monster walk here. I'm going to come in to out, same thing, keeping the hips level. Good, good. Now I can turn around. I can do the same thing coming back, or the more advanced version, as long as you have the balance and feel safe to do that, is I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going to come in to out, stepping backwards, in to out, stepping backwards. So again, same thing. I'll do 10 to 15 steps down, 10 to 15 steps back. So again, with those, band is up, crossed, the hands are by my hip. I'm in that shallow squat position. A little bit deeper squat, a little bit tighter pull on the band will give me a little more aggressive exercise. I'm going to step in to out, 15 to 10 steps down, and then either turning around or more advanced, I'm coming backwards, coming in to out, keeping everything slow, controlled, squared up and level. Great. Next, I'm going to take my band again. I'm going to loop this around my knees. So what I'm going to do is bring my feet close together, knees are touching, band comes around, and I'm going to tie the band tight against my knee there. And usually just one wrap does it here because the band, the rubber from the band holds pretty well. I'm going to step out so my feet are shoulder width apart, and you can see now how the band pulls my knees in together there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my hips to pull the band out. I make sure that I keep my feet flat. I don't want to come out onto the sides of my feet, but I keep my feet flat, keep my big toe onto the ground, and I'm going to go into a little squat here. Down and back up. We'll do 10 of those. Listen to your body, go with whatever depth feels comfortable. Really setting those hips back. Notice I'm keeping my shins pretty vertical here, being really careful not to let the knees come forward. The band is helping to facilitate me keeping my knees out. And I'm going as low as I feel comfortable. If you can do full depth, go ahead and do full depth. Listen to your knees. If your knees only allow you to go halfway, only go halfway. We'll do 2 rounds of 10 of that. Okay, I'm going to untie my band here. All right, so the final exercise, we're going to use our CLX band here. This is a really cool exercise, really great for skiing. We're going to take this loop here, and we're going to take that loop, we're going to put it around the front of the foot. And I'm going to wrap it around here, coming up around the top of the foot, down around the lower leg here, fairly snug here. And you get a couple wraps down here, a couple wraps on the lower leg, coming up over the knee, and then across the thigh. Not tight, but snug, sort of moderate tension through there. And as I come up and around, and you can see how that wraps it to the inside. So the band is actually pulling my knee to the inside here. I'm up by my hip. So what I'm going to do is I have to use a little bit of extra hip muscle to engage, kind of pull that band out. So I'm going to hold here, and from here I'm going to go into a little reverse lunge. So my feet are shoulder width apart. I'm going to step back to a little shallow lunge and back up. So I've got that tension onto the band here, down into that shallow lunge and back up. So we'll do that 10 times, focusing on this leg on keeping that shin as vertical as possible. The band is trying to kind of create a little tension here. I've got to use a little bit more hip muscle to keep it out so it's straight up over my foot. Foot is flat, 10 repetitions. And after a few of them, you should really start feeling it talking to you up into the hip there. So we'll set this up on the other leg. Pull that apart here. Wrap this around my other foot. Wrap that coming up over the top of the foot, wrapping around, so you can see how it's going to have this tendency to pull me inward. Come up over the knee to the hip there. So the band is twisting inward, kind of corkscrewing inward. I'm going to have to engage those muscles to keep it out. And then I'm into those shallow lunges. Again, 10 repetitions. If you really start feeling it in the hip, don't feel forced to do 10. You might want to scale it to maybe 5, 6, something like that to start out with. All right. All right, everybody. So today we went through some of my favorite little pre-ski exercises. These are great to start a few weeks before ski season. You know, ideally like 4 to 6 weeks would be ideal. Maybe do these 2 to 3 times a week, 3 sets of 10. Key takeaways with this though is if you're just starting out with this, if you haven't done any, hip strengthening in a while, that might be more volume than what your hips can handle. So feel free to scale it back to 3 sets of maybe 5 repetitions or 3 sets of 8. You can always, start a little light and then as weeks progress, build up as we go. All right, everybody, have a great ski season. Ski safe, ski healthy, and keep moving.